Only the people who are owed nothing and worth nothing need to put on the shirt saying, "Pay us what you owe us." The
WNBA is back at it again. They are calling for pay equity, and this time they've decided to protest by wearing t-shirts that say "Pay us what you owe us" for warm-ups before an all-star game. The only issue is the WNBA is not profitable.
One of the most tone-deaf acts in professional sports history was just performed by the WNBA players. They demanded more money from a league that loses $50 million annually while sporting shirts. The criticism has been really harsh. These players are increasingly discovering the importance of timing in business talks.
Pay us what we're worth. But the internet and even their own fans fired back with a brutal question. What exactly are you worth? Because when your stadium is half empty, your ratings are in the gutter, and your league is losing money, who exactly do you think should foot the bill? Corporate guilt? Taxpayer handouts? The NBA players? Or is this just another episode of entitlement dressed up as social justice?
Do you believe that players have a right to demand pay increases from a league that hasn't turned a profit in almost 30 years? Please share your opinions in the comments section.
Let's welcome the night official. Make her second all-star
Thus, we are seeing what may end up being the most humiliating public relations catastrophe in WNBA history. Players made a statement during their All-Star weekend by donning warm-up jerseys that said, "Pay us what you owe us before the game." The issue is that, after 28 years of losing money faster than a leaking bucket, they are requesting money from a league that owes them nothing at all. Let's begin with the fundamental math that these guys seem to have overlooked. Even though 2024 was the WNBA's most successful year ever in terms of attendance and viewership, the league lost $50 million. Take a moment to consider that, even though Caitlin Clark's popularity helped them achieve record-breaking figures in their best year, they still lost $50 million. That loss is not little or a short-term setback. That would be a disastrous business failure.
For women's sports.
Us getting paid our worth.
Period.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're doing exactly what LeBron is doing, so what's going on?
Sis,
I don't
they
like
ain't got
that.
the money for us just yet, but it's coming. It's coming.
Is it? I don't understand it.
It's a lot. It's a lot that goes into it.
However, some gamers intuitively believe that now is the ideal moment to ask for extra money. It's similar to seeing demand increase among staff at a failing restaurant as the owner posts notices that the establishment is closing. It's quite astounding how foolish it is to believe that you deserve more money from a business that has never turned a profit. When you consider it, the shirt's tagline is especially amusing. The phrase "pay us what you owe us" suggests that the league is genuinely in arrears. Here's the truth, though. The majority of these players ought to be paying the league for the right to play professionally if we're discussing what the league truly owes based on their contribution to profitability. Since its founding in 1997, the NBA has provided financial support to the WNBA. Yes, exactly. The men's league has been providing financial support to the women's league for the past 28 years. About 60% of the WNBA is owned by the NBA. This amount rises even further when you include individual NBA team owners who also own WNBA teams. In essence, the WNBA is a non-profit organization supported by basketball's success.
Players are studying Paige, Kiki, and Sonya were sitting right next to each other and knowing, like, they show us the numbers from 26, 27. They don't show you 30 and 31. And my mom told me when I was younger, like, they'll show you the money here, but what about the longevity of it? The players that are coming after us, next year's players. So I think it's really important right now. Obviously, women's basketball is skyrocketing, and it's important for us to get what we want now, but not just now, but for the future as well. And it's really nice to have vets that may not be playing for 10 more years, but they are speaking for us because they know how important it is right now. It was an eye-opener for me. Like hearing the things and hearing the language of things, and not things that I was happy to hear. It was disrespectful to things that we were sent back, the proposal that we were sent back, and knowing that like this is for the next generation. Like it's important to be able to be vocal. If I sit back, it looks like I don't care. Like, and I know my voice and I know my platform.
Players attempted to defend their demands during the All-Star Weekend press conferences by mentioning the brand's development and the blood, sweat, and tears they had put in. The players are what are building this league and this brand. 1. Players stated, without players, a league cannot exist. Although that is technically accurate, a league would not exist without the NBA's financial backing. These players seem to have forgotten that aspect as well. This stunt has elicited a very harsh response from fans, and with good reason. The obvious inconsistency of requesting money from a league that makes no money was widely pointed out on social media. Simple remarks such as the WNBA losing $50 million a year and never turning a profit were among the comments. You should have access to more thorough explanations of why this requirement isn't rational from a business standpoint.
I mean, she really should be getting paid many millions of dollars, not because I'm interested in watching, but just because the fact that she's been able to generate any interest in the WNBA is I mean, you could argue it's one of the most impressive feats in human history. I honestly didn't think it was possible. I didn't think it was possible that anyone could generate even the slightest interest in the WNBA, and she's generated a little bit. And so I think that is really moving a mountain. So they should pay her, exorbitant sums, but for all the rest of them, it should be like Caitlin Clark is paid whatever, I don't know, $20 million a year, and the rest of them should be paid. Really what it should be is that all the other WNBA players are paying Caitlin Clark.
According to one particularly harsh comment, the majority of these players ought to be paying the league instead of asking for raises if they were truly concerned about being compensated fairly. The arithmetic is not too complicated. You're true. Value to the league is negative if your participation results in an annual loss of $50 million. From a public relations standpoint, this protest couldn't have come at a worse time. The WNBA is now negotiating a collective bargaining deal, but rather than garnering popular support, they have succeeded in alienating casual observers. The majority of people are aware with the fundamentals of business. Prior to increasing employee compensation, you must generate revenue.
And that's still the case, even with record levels of interest in the sport due entirely and solely to Caitlin Clark. Still, the league loses money by the truckload. It lost $50 million last year.
The fact that many of these athletes already receive excessive compensation in comparison to the money they bring in only serves to highlight how absurd this situation is. Although the average WNBA pay of $120,000 may not seem like much in comparison to NBA earnings, it is quite generous given the league's annual financial losses. Employees of a continuously losing corporation would normally get salary reductions rather than raises. Players' continued use of the revenue-sharing argument betrays a basic ignorance of how businesses operate. Indeed, WNBA players receive around 9% of league revenue, but NBA players receive roughly 50%. However, there is a significant distinction. In fact, the NBA is profitable. Revenue-sharing percentages from profitable and unsuccessful businesses cannot be compared. It's similar to contrasting the percentage of profits that workers at Amazon receive with those at a business that is about to go bankrupt. The WNBA currently makes around $200 million in income, but after expenses, it loses $50 million. This indicates that they have a 25% negative profit margin. Under what circumstances is it reasonable for workers to request a larger portion of negative profits? They are essentially requesting a larger portion of an imaginary pie. The $2.2 billion over 11 years of the new media rights deal, which begins in 2026, seems substantial until you consider that it only amounts to roughly $200 million annually. They now lose $50 million a year on $200 million in revenue, so there's no assurance that this new agreement would even turn a profit. However, before anyone can predict whether the league will eventually break even, players are already preparing to demand 50% of this revenue. Imagine, from the standpoint of a business owner, investing in a firm for 28 years, losing money each year, and then suddenly having a chance to possibly break even. Then, before you've even determined whether the additional revenue will be sufficient to halt the bleeding, your staff approaches you demanding not just raises, but half of all revenue. The majority of sensible business owners would sooner close their doors than put up with that degree of entitlement. This whole situation is made even more ridiculous by the Caitlin Clark situation. She is undoubtedly the league's largest revenue generator, accounting for the majority of the ink. These players' constant comparisons to other professional sports leagues are wholly untrue. Players in the NFL or NBA are negotiating over how to divide billions of dollars in profits when they ask for larger revenue shares. The WNBA players are attempting to work out a loss-sharing agreement. Collective bargaining isn't that. Financial suicide is what that is. What's most troubling about this whole situation is the players' seeming conviction that, just because they play professional basketball, they should be paid at NBA level. However, professional sports aim to attract paying patrons. Just like any other entertainment industry, you aren't worth much as a professional athlete if you can't sell tickets, make money on TV, or move stuff. The harsh truth is that most sports fans simply don't find professional women's basketball to be a compelling product. The tournament format and school allegiance make college women's basketball an interesting sport. However, the WNBA lacks such inherent benefits. Although the quality of play is remarkable for women, it lacks the athleticism and entertainment value of men's basketball. While this does not imply that women do not deserve professional playing chances, it does imply that the market sets the financial value of those opportunities. The WNBA is not a standalone financial endeavor. Rather, it is primarily a social project backed by the NBA. To act otherwise would be to live in a fantasy world. Despite the players' constant rhetoric about establishing the brand and adding value, the brand still depends on subsidies to survive after 28 years. The league would have turned a profit by now if they were truly creating anything worthwhile. The majority of players have only been making losses, as evidenced by the fact that they required Caitlin Clark's personal fame to garner any significant attention. The league's internal divide was also evident from the protest shirts. Given that she is the one generating revenue, it makes natural that Clark's team wasn't overly excited about the demonstration, according to reports. Why would the Golden Goose want to participate in a demonstration calling for equal compensation for all workers, regardless of their level of contribution? The entire circumstance draws attention to a larger issue with professional sports entitlement mentality. Regardless of their true market value or contribution to the success of the organization, players appear to believe they should be paid a specific amount just for playing professionally. However, the ultimate goal of sports, like any business, is to make money. Since most people are aware of the fundamentals of economics, the reaction to this protest has been swift and violent. An organization that has no money to give cannot be asked for more money. The NBA has already generously given the WNBA its continued existence, so it is offensive to demand more while causing further losses. Some players' supporters contend that the league is at last making progress and that the new TV agreement shows the product's worth, but that is wildly unrealistic optimism. There is no assurance that the agreement will be sufficient to provide a profit for the league, and it doesn't begin until 2026. Even if it is beneficial, the NBA should be reimbursed for decades of subsidies within the first few years of any earnings. It is backwards thinking to believe that players should get raises before the league even turns a profit. Employees often participate in success after it has been attained, not before. The WNBA players want to be compensated as though they work for a successful company even though they are a part of a failing one. This protest was extremely unproductive from a strategic perspective.